Hey y'all, and welcome back to the Book of Brianna, a podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brianna Whiteside, and I am joined by
Nikki, the business coach.
I am joined by Nikki, the business coach, and we want to welcome you back to the podcast. We want to welcome you back to join us for the transitioning focus for the month. And we just want to talk to you about some real stuff. So before we get into the chat today, I want to tell you about some stuff that I have going on. You all, I am offering the transition toolkit to you. It is 2 ebooks to help you transition well. The first is focuses on fear. So it's called Trusting the Process. It's really for those who struggle with fears. And, fear is a loud emotion and it can stop you more times than not. And I don't want fear to stop you in 2024. It's already done enough, in the previous season. Let's just go ahead and lay it to rest. And the second ebook is The Ugly Truth, Going First with No Guide. This is for the pioneers. This is for the people who got trust with the future. This is for the people who don't have a mentor. I said that. I want you to know that you're able to transition and do everything that God has called you to do without a mentor. So if you need encouragement, if you need a friend, if you need someone to speak life into you, I want you to grab the transition toolkit that is on my site at briannawhiteside.com. But while you're there, I also want you to join my Insiders Club. My insiders, they get weekly inspiration from me. They get first looks at the products that we're offering. They get sneak peeks behind the scenes and also exclusive discounts. And so I want to journey with you. I don't want our podcast to be the end of our journey. I want to touch bases with you every week. And so I want to encourage you to go ahead and be an insider at briannawhiteside.com. Totally free 99. But I want to make sure that we stay connected. Nikki, what you got going on?
So, if you are ready to make that transition into entrepreneurship, I'm your girl. I am the business coach, the coach to coaches and consultants. And so, I want to help you to transition into the journey in the world of entrepreneurship. So, if you have an idea, a thought, and you're wondering if this could be profitable for you, then go ahead and book a call. And you can find out more information at nikkilagrow.com. And so I'll be looking forward to it. I want to talk to you. Let's figure this thing out and see what you can do so that you can build generational wealth, have multiple streams of income, get out of debt, whatever your dream and desire is, let's make it a reality.
And we will have all of this information in the show notes just in case you missed something. Don't worry. We got you covered, y'all. We got you covered because we are literally in the last month of the second quarter. Q2 is almost over. And we're about to, period. And we're about to enter into Q3. And I just want to encourage everyone to look back over your goals for 2024 that you made in January. And you say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Da, 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 da. And I want you to ask yourself, is transition the only way you're going to be able to do that? Because it's easy for us, right, to have these lofty goals. But what cost? At what cost? What is it going to cost you to achieve all of those goals that you said that you was going to achieve in 2024? And I want you to think about that because I want you to take a look at where you are right now and see how close are you to achieving those goals. We're about to enter the midway point of the year, and it's not too late for you to become all of the things that you said you can become, but you also must take into account that transition is going to be required of you. And so today we are actually going to talk about the trauma and hardship of transition. And the reason why I want to talk about this topic specifically is because I think we sanitize the Christian journey, the journey of the believer, and we hyper focus on what we believe God is going to do and what we believe God said. And that should be your focus, right? But when we have to take into account our own limitations, what we feel in the journey, all of the things, we kind of fall apart. And then we're stuck wondering, am I doing something wrong? Is it the math isn't mathing? So maybe I'm on the wrong equation. You start to just question yourself. Like, I'm doing geometry and I'm supposed to be doing trigonometry. I don't know.
Right.
And so I want us to have a sober conversation about transitions, not just the amazing things that transition will yield you, though it will yield you some fruitful results, but you have to get through it first. You have to decide not to die in the middle. It's that middle that threatens to take our life from us.
Yeah.
It's the middle when you're too far from where you were to go back, but you're still so far from where you're going. It's that middle ground where you're in a hallway of uncertainty that people stop and cause their lives to stagnate. So I wanted to have this discussion because I know the feeling all too well, and I don't want to romanticize the process. I don't want to romanticize what it really takes to follow God. And, I just want to give voice to let people know that you're not alone if you're feeling these feelings. I think that they're real human, they're valid, and they show you that you are on this journey with God. You may actually be beginning to walk on water, right? And so I feel like my siblings are always like the point, a story of reference, right? But they are, and including myself. And so I was talking to one of my brothers, and he's in a transition, and he was like, I don't struggle with anxiety, but I've been having some anxious thoughts lately, right? And he's like, it's so foreign to me because I don't struggle with this. And I said, you want to know why you're struggling now? Because now is the first time you're really trying to learn how to trust God. I said, imagine Peter walking on water. We romanticize that. Some people, throw shade at Peter. First of all, you defying the laws of water. Okay.
Right.
So people throw shade, people, say what they say. But think about this. When Jesus tells Peter to come, right? Come. One of the definitions means appear before me now. That is a command. So your maker, everybody knows when their creator is speaking to them. Now you can decide to ignore it or not, but on a deeper level, every cell in your body knows when God is talking to you. And he tells Peter, come. Then that was a command, appear before me now. And you got Peter trying to do this thing, right? Anxious. You were walking on water? That's impossible. The previous podcast, I said 1 + 1 = impossible when you try to do God math. Right? You know that little stuff that going on social media. God math is God math is what you got plus what he said equals impossible. From your vantage point. Right? But I said like, yeah, no, I think that that's a fair feeling because now you're trying to fight through fear. You're trying to, for the first time, obey God in a way that you have never had to obey him before, and you're scared. And his name is still glorified. And you're still in this transition, and it is going to be hard. And I'm not going to tell you it's going to be easy. No, it's going to be hard. And it's so funny. Sometimes he's like, sometimes I wish you have a different response. And I'm like,
it's the
I
only
want to tell you
response
the
I
truth.
got. Right.
Because I wish somebody would have told me the truth. It's sexy to say follow God. It's beautiful, lofty. Yes. Fall out in church.
Right.
But when you start that follow, what do? When every cell in your body starts to Michael Jackson. Moonwalk. What you gonna do?
That's a real place. Fear is a real thing. We tend to hyper spiritualize this concept of God has not given us the spirit of fear. We get that.
He didn't.
But this thing is scary.
But it's still here.
Yeah. Like
he didn't
in my
give it to you, but it's here.
I still feel this.
Yeah. So what you gonna do? Lie?
Right.
I tried to lie before. I tried. You know how you try to like, and that's why I'm so against spiritual bypassing. I tried to be like, go and pray. Oh Lord, you're wonderful. You're magnificent. You're worthy. Give him the praise of your lips. And at the end of my lip offering, he said, "You want to talk about what's wrong?" And I said, "You are amazing. You are there." Like I'm still trying. What I'm trying to do is manipulate you.
Yes.
And he like, that ain't gonna work, sis. You want to
Mm-hmm.
talk about what's really wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because those who worship him must worship him in spirit and
And in
truth.
truth. Yeah.
I was trying to offer, my heart wasn't in that. I was offering him empty words that I thought he wanted to hear. And he's like, no, let's talk about, will the real you show up? Will the real Slim Shady please stand up?
Please stand up. But we do that in and why though? Because he knows all. He knows your heart in the first place. So why do we tend to operate out of emptiness when you already know, he already knows, but we still trying to give him that empty lip service?
Religion.
Mm.
Religion. This is learned behavior,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is learned tradition. And we know, and this is me finna misquote the scripture, take it out of context. Y'all know I'm against it, but I'm gonna do it this time. When Jesus talks about your traditions have made the word of God of no effect.
Mm.
Your traditions, right? And this is just not the word of God for the world. This is the word of God in your life.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that's going to work in this world for you is the word of God. And when you can't stand on Bible, because that's what we do on this channel, we stand on Bible, you're standing on falsity. You're standing on a lie. A lie cannot stand in the face of the Lord. You can't.
Right.
It's going to fall every time. And so when we are in transition, and there's been plenty of times when I was like, I don't know what to say. Or you let your tears do the speaking. Because there's plenty of times that I didn't cry myself to
Baby.
sleep at night.
Baby. Okay. In the middle of the day, cried myself to right into a nap. Okay. Yes.
Into a nap.
Yes.
I've cried so much. I remember last season, I was just like, I'm tired of crying. I'm
Mm-hmm.
tired of crying, but I couldn't pretend to be strong. I didn't want to perform. I didn't want to be like, I got this. No, I don't got this one. I don't got me. And I remember telling people, because sometimes when you're the strong friend or you are the first, like people are used to depending on you. I remember telling people, I don't got me, so I don't got nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And that was me putting on my own mask first. When you're used to being dependent on, when you're used to people are accustomed to you showing up and you like,
Right.
I ain't got it.
Right.
That is hard though, right? That's an ego trip for me because I had to admit,
Mm-hmm.
I really don't got this in this season, so
Mm-hmm.
I can't be who I was to you. But will you still love me?
Right. Right. Will you still
As
journey with me?
will you still journey with me as a recovering people pleaser?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a real thing. And then not too long ago, I had a very similar revelation of I'm not all right. I'm not okay. Because I'm used to putting on this brave face, like, oh yeah, I'm good. Happy to be, all the churchisms we always say, but I'm not okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
not okay. And what does this
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I
Mm-hmm.
remember sitting with God being like, I'm not okay. I was talking to my husband and he asked me something and I was just like, I am not okay. And then I sat there and I asked God, okay, so what does this mean? Now that I've admitted this, what does this mean? Because this is also not a place that I want to stay at. And I think coming to that realization of one, you're not okay. And two, what do we do to get back to being okay or
Mm.
being good? Because we don't
Yeah.
need to stay in this not okayness, if you will.
Period. And so, like, what did you have any steps? Did he prescribe anything, or it was just continue to journey forward?
It was honestly just continuing to journey forward. There were
Yeah.
no necessarily steps there. God, this year, since we clocked into 2020, I blame you, but since we have clocked into 2024, my relationship with God has been a lot different. And it was you that said you are a friend of God. And I was like, I don't know what that means. Like, what do I do with that? I am the type of person, you give me an instruction, I'm going to execute the instruction. Like I'm trying to walk this obedient lifestyle out. And when you get back to what we were kind of talking about last week with the different levels, now I'm back to ground zero because it's cute to use all of these cliche statements about God being a provider, him being, a healer and righteous and all of these things. But if you've never seen him in this way, how can you say that? And there's a
You don't know him
song, I
like
think
that.
Right. It's a song by, I think, Israel, like, I'm a friend of God. He knows my
God's my
name.
friend. Mhm.
Yeah, like, okay, great. But what does that really mean? How do I do life with you now as my friend versus my heavenly
Mhm.
father? And
Mhm.
this walk and this journey is way different. And so all that to
Mhm.
say is that when you ask me the question, like, how he didn't really say much, but we've had a lot of difficult conversations, and he's shown me a lot
Mhm.
about me and who I am, and I'm like, ooh, that's not cute. How do I fix that? How do I get out of that?
Yeah.
um or just even revealing things about situations and why I may respond a certain type of way, or why my husband and I may journey this type of way with renewed love and so on. But it's not been a comfortable place. And it's been a lot of me inquiring and being inquisitive, like, okay, so you said this, but what does this mean? And one of the things, I'll share this story, if you don't mind, if we got a little time.
Go ahead.
I was listening to a song, and I think it was Maverick City, Beautiful, something beautiful. I don't remember. But in the beginning of the song, Chandler says, I'm in love with you, or you're in love with us, whichever way it was. And I started singing the song and I misquoted the lyric. And I was like, well, God, you're in love with me. I'm in love with you. You know what I meant. And I kind of brushed it off. And he immediately was like, are you? And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, I know you love me, but are you in love with me? And I started thinking about that. Well, what does it mean to be in love? Right, right. And what does that mean to be in love with God? What does that look like? And so since that, so that was probably January, we've been on this journey to know what being in love with God is like, and what it means, and what it is and what it is not. Um, and
Mm.
so throughout that process, there's been a lot of questions, there's been a lot of
Mm.
revelation and things like that.
Mm.
And it's not a good place to be in. It is
Mm.
not a fun place to be in, because when I started thinking about that, I'm like, I do love God, but am I in love with
Mm. Mhm.
God? Am I using situations, circumstances, and life to determine whether I'm in love with my
Yeah.
heavenly father? And I
Right.
realized, yeah, of course, because humans disappoint me. And when I don't get my way, or when I feel like I should have gotten something, or when I'm crying, spitting, and fighting about the same thing for years upon years upon years, then yeah, I feel like you have let me down.
Period.
That's true. That's my
Yeah.
truth right now. That is not
Yeah.
the truth, but
Yeah.
that is my current truth.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
how do we deal with that? And
That's
that is
facts.
right. That is the journey that
Yeah.
part of the journey we've been on.
So as you were speaking about, the Israel Houghton song and being a friend of God, I was thinking like sometimes we think and it is an admirable thing, but sometimes we think that that would lessen the severity of the journey. And
Mm-hmm.
I can only just go back to this current season that I am in, and God, I knew that I was coming out January 2023. I knew. And it was God letting me know, you're a friend of mine. I'm about to tell you what's about to happen. But that
Mm-hmm.
did not take away from the feelings
Right.
of the
Right.
process.
Right.
So
Right.
he could have abruptly snatched me on up and snatched me on out, but we've already done that.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's like, I'm about to tell you, my friend, what's about to happen in your life. And I'm about to allow you to process this, but I need you to
Mm-hmm.
keep moving forward.
Right. So he gave
And
you what,
in
11 months to prepare? He
a month,
found
no, a year and a half.
a year and a half before he put
January
you in finals.
2023. No, oh, no, 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 no. I'm talking about before the full end of it.
Oh, okay, okay.
So January 2023, I knew. September, the process started where I had to start admitting to the people, the powers that be, that I was
Mm-hmm.
coming out. Then December was the final resignation, the formal
Mm-hmm.
resignation. So he gave me 9 months to process before I had to have any discussion with
Mm-hmm.
anybody outside of my inside people.
Mm-hmm.
And then the resignation. But every step was a step of grief,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
another layer. And so then transitioning to January 2024, now you're in a countdown,
Right.
right?
Right.
And we're still in the countdown, y'all. We're in
Right.
June. We're done. We're not done until the end of June 30th. But we're in this countdown. There was that 6-month countdown, and it was agonizing. But I knew, hey, this Brianna, he told you, he gave you the courtesy to tell you. And even when I went to clean out my office, he's like, go ahead and clean it out this month, because next month you're gonna be probably emotional.
That makes sense.
Go ahead and do this in May.
Right.
Because in June, you're going to feel a certain type of way. And I need you to go ahead and close this out. And so when I would think about being a friend of God, and he told Abraham was a friend of God, and we like to sing the Israel Houghton song and all the things like that. But even though you're a friend does not mean that you're not going to feel the blow of it. It's like, I'm just going to give you a chance to brace.
Right. Brace for
I'm
impact.
going to brace for the impact, because there will be an impact. You will feel it. I need you to know this, but I told you up front what you're about to walk into. And it don't make it easier, but it makes you understand that you have graduated to a different level in God. Even if you don't feel like you have graduated to this other level, you have, because you have migrated from a servant to a friend. But you still gonna have to go through.
Right. Right.
And your go through won't look like the next person's go through, right? Like, and this is also what I tell my siblings. I am the first, and they're looking at me like, I don't want that. And I'm like, I don't want it either.
Right.
But I tell them, like, your journey won't look like mine, because we're called to do totally different things.
Yeah.
You saw me get the taste slap out my mouth, but that was only for reference, for you to know that someone can make it through. It was only supposed to be used as a point of reference, that this person can make it through. Not, I'm going to have to go through this because Brianna went through this. No, we're called to different people. We're called to do different things, whatever. God lets you see and get glimpses of people. And this is what I think, and I don't know why I'm saying this, but it's come to mind now. He will let you see people who have already done it, to show you what's possible for you. But you know how we like to say, like, if he won't show it to you if he ain't want you to have it type situation, right?
Yeah.
He'll show you the people who are very similar in their function, to say, you can have that. A version of that.
Right.
But it's going to be tailored to you. But you going to have to sit with the bitterness of your journey. I think the hardest part for me was realizing that I was jealous of my friends who didn't have to go through what I went through. They got to keep their careers. They got to get married already. Some of them have children, blah, blah, blah. Like, I had to realize, like, I am really jealous of y'all. Y'all didn't have to give up y'all life.
Yeah.
Your 20s, your 30s. Like, you didn't have to give up anything. And I had to admit that to them. And they were like, that's real. Like, I am jealous that you get to keep almost everything. And I have given up my last thing. I'm freaking Whitney Houston. I have nothing.
Right. That's a real place, though, to admit. It takes maturity to admit, because again, we hear all these scriptures, or we read all these scriptures, and hear all these ministers and pastors talking about, don't be jealous, and don't say this, and don't question God, and da 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 da. But it's like, that's a real human feeling, to feel jealous, to be hurt by God, to be disappointed that in all of this, and all that you've had to sacrifice, and all that you had to go through, now you want the one thing I worked hard for since I was 2, or since I was in second grade.
You want my last thing. And we have Bible for this. We focus a lot on the prodigal son, but we don't look at the elder brother who stayed, who did all the things. You know what I'm saying? It was like, like,
it was like, you ain't through no party for me, and I've been here.
I'm the one that was rocking with you, my guy.
Right.
What about me?
Right.
What about me? And the comfort of the Father is like, everything that I have is yours. But your brother was lost. Like, we're celebrating him coming back. Now, this don't mean he ain't gonna have no process. We're gonna celebrate him coming back, but understand that everything that is mine has always been yours. And it is that real place of seeing people get what you want first. Right? Like I've always been honest about vocal. Like I've watched so many people get what I want before me. And you still gotta stand there
Yep. And
and
applaud
applaud them.
from a
And you
real
gotta show up
place. Yeah.
from
Yeah.
from a
Yes.
genuine place, even when you feel
Yes.
like you don't have nothing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I remember telling my homegirl, she told me she wanted a deeper relationship with me and friends. We've been friends for a long time. Since grad school, undergrad actually. And she said, I realized I don't know you. And I said, you don't. You don't, but it isn't, I understand why you don't, right? So much of your journey has been progressive going forward, and so much of mine has been depth going down. So you have moved forward and I've moved deeper. And so we're still cool, but we are on the same page. But I'm willing to get on the same page, right? And when I was talking to her about like my frustration about having to go deeper, yeah, it's gonna pay off one day, but when is one day?
But this ain't the
What
day.
day of the week?
Right.
What day of the week is one day? Because when I see people moving forward, I'm like, I'm still in the same place. I've just gone deeper. And yeah, I know you need depth. And, you know, I know that all of that matters. But like when you see people moving and you don't move, you're not moving.
Right.
You moving. You are moving like this.
Right. Right.
But
you in quicksand. You just moving
you're not
down.
making you're not making forward progress.
Yeah.
And I had to come to that realization that that bothers me. And there's nothing I could do about it. That bothers me. And so that is a hard part of transitioning, because sometimes transition won't look like forward progress, but you will still be making progress.
So when you get in these moments when you're looking at your circle and the people around you and they're progressing and you're moving deeper, what does that conversation with God look like? And is he revealing, or has he revealed to you why you're going deeper versus moving forward?
Right. So he generally does not validate that stuff because I mean, those are my feelings, right? Yeah. But those are facts. Those are not necessarily truth. And so when I'm falling out, throwing my tantrum, because I'm not above it, he's basically is like, because you haven't seen the rest of the story. You're comparing your chapter. You may feel like you're still on chapter 3 on in the book, the physical book you're holding, but you don't know that this is actually your chapter 7 in my book. But just because the two realms have not collided in a way to show you how much progress you actually made, you are literally weighing what you perceive to still be as chapter 3, but I know it's already chapter 7 for you. So in a lot of ways, God is like, just wait, watch what I tell you. And you know, my friends' validation are, I wish we would have done what I've done, what you've done when we were single. I wish that I still had the time and the things to do all of these things. You know what I'm saying? It's like a grass green on the side, but it's like, no, I understand, Bree, how difficult this is for you, but trust me, you have done the right thing. And the right thing don't always feel right.
Right. It doesn't feel right, and it don't feel good. It doesn't feel good, especially when you're standing on the side of the highway and you're watching all these cars go by. Everybody you know is moving, and you just
everybody.
Can I get a ride? Like,
trying to obey God, taking you to scenic route.
Right. Child. Yes.
The scenic route has always been my portion. Delayed gratification, the scenic route. And it's a hard pill to swallow when you still have to hold that tension and you still have to move forward, because it's not just because you feel a certain way, don't give you the license to stop.
Right.
It don't give you the license to give up, to be a quitter. I think the thing that keeps me moving forward in the hardships, and y'all know when we talk about hard seasons, my seasons ain't for 3 months. They 1.5 years, 2 years. And I'm like, how y'all get out these seasons off? Is there a formula? Did I miss the tutorial? What's the notes? Like, what are the notes? Because y'all didn't got out and I'm still here, but I understand that you got to dig a little bit lower for a firm foundation to build a good house. The foundation matters. And the
That's
deeper
good.
you go, the stronger the house will stand when it is higher up in the air. And, I've gone deep for a long time. And I do think that I'm finally at the point where I can go forward, right? With this ending, with this last obedience decision, the door that closed. I do think I'm finally at the place where I can see, now let's see the forward progress. But years, I got saved in 2014. That's 10. Oh,
Yeah. 10 years.
that's 10 years. 10 years, my salvation journey, 10 years a professor.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a long time. And so when people think like, oh, you're seeing this chapter, that was 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
10. And 6 of them in the desert.
Literally and figuratively. Yes.
Literally and figuratively. And so I want y'all to know, like, it's gonna be hard. It's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
But the hardship should not cheat you out of the prize, the promise. It is just there to train you, to strengthen you, but also to test how badly do you want this thing? Because we can give lip service all day. Oh, I want this thing with your mouth. What your
Mm-hmm.
actions saying?
Mm-hmm.
And as women, we quick to say, well, if his actions ain't lining up,
Right. Right.
you giving all this lip service, your actions ain't adding up. No math ain't math. You just talking,
Mm-hmm.
lady. What about you? Well, you say you want the promises of God. You say you want the abundant life, or maybe you don't. I don't know. I want it. You say you want to live a life of purpose. You said all this stuff. Do you not know that when you said all this stuff to God, God said, "All right, go ahead, put him in the process."
Mm-hmm.
You say you agreed.
Mm-hmm.
So God doing his part is also putting you through the hardship of the process. I think it's Joshua. It's coming to mind. Let me pull this up. All right. So the scripture that I was talking to my brothers about was Jeremiah, right? And it's Jeremiah 1:17. And this is when God is talking to Jeremiah, encouraging him to do what he tells him to do. And he says, "Get yourself ready, stand up and say to them whatever I command you. Do not be terrified by them, or I will terrify you before them." That sounds like a threat.
Yikes, that is definitely a threat.
Like, go do what I told you to do, and do not be worried about men because you got bigger problems to worry about, and I'm your biggest threat here.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I read that, first of all, I didn't know it was in the Bible. But second of all, I was like, yo, we really, like, we think this journey that we're going on right now is terrifying, it's hard. We have not fallen into the hands of an angry God.
That part.
We're still dealing with the merciful Father. But we see here in this scripture with Jeremiah when he's saying, obey me, do what I'm telling you to do. Do not, don't be terrified by them, the people who may come against you. You know how people like, they going to talk about me. Who is that? Give them a face, give them a name, but that ain't got nothing to do with nothing. And then he says, don't be terrified by them, or I will terrify you before them. And I'm going to make an example out of you.
Mm-hmm.
You choose them to be your idol. And I'm going to show you what's going to happen. Once you cross that line, that butt is mine.
Ooh,
you know what I'm
child,
saying?
I don't want that. No, thank you.
And so even in the hardness of the journey, and it's going to be hard, and following God should never be, it's not going to be easy. It's not. It ain't supposed to.
And nowhere was it promised that it was going to be.
I'm trying to find it in the Bible. So I can like, see?
Right.
This is supposed to be easy for me. What is this that I'm
No.
experiencing? No, right? So
yeah,
it's not going to be easy. The journey will challenge you. In order for you to take your rightful place as a kingdom citizen and subdue, you're going to be resisted. And so you just got to understand that hardship is part of the journey. And if you're in a hard season right now, you're going to have to endure it. And you're going to have to walk through. And I don't know when that season is going to end for you. I know what it's like to wish that the season would end and still be in it for another year. But this is the hard part of your story. This right here is the hard part of your story, and it is hard to transition out of the life you knew, out of the cultural, familial history you knew. It's hard. Y'all think it was easy for me to go away to school as the
Right.
first? Y'all
Right.
think it was easier for me to uproot my life every few years? It's hard. But what's your alternative? In the
Right.
previous episode, I said curiosity is greater than fear. If you're curious enough, you can do it scared. And I know, as Nikki said, we like to say God ain't give us a spirit of fear, but you still scared.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, it don't matter who gave it to you.
Right.
What,
Right.
what matters is that you have it. And you're going to have to outpace it, outmove it, and you're going to have to keep doing it until you're not afraid anymore. Until you're not afraid anymore.
Because what's the
And
alternative? Because either we stay stuck in fear, which God again did not give us. So now we're in sin
ooh,
and we're in disobedience because fear will
mhm,
cripple you to the point that you don't make a move and you
it
don't
might,
do, yeah, and you won't do what God has called you to do. So what's the alternative? Either we
mhm,
just don't, sometimes we just don't have to do some stuff
mhm,
afraid. And I don't really like that statement, but sometimes it's the reality. Even in the fear, even in the pain, even through the crying, even through the rocking, even through the sitting in the corner, like, or as Brianna would say, rubbing your feet together in the bed. Like, you gotta push through. That is the
and
only way.
and I'm gonna just be 100 with y'all. Like in this last decision, as late as April, I remember calling my mother in panic, crying and saying, "I'm terrified." And it's that cry that comes from your gut,
Mm-hmm. That deep
not the
well.
surface cry, but it was me
Mm-hmm.
saying, "I am terrified," and I had already made the decision.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We in June. And I'm in April saying, I'm terrified, but I'm still going. And I'm breaking down. And, in the podcast with my mom, I told y'all, like, I admitted when I was doing that Let There Be challenge, I was not okay. I was not okay. It was the ball was rolling in a way that I didn't. And that's why I had so many people on and helping me with the challenge. Cause I'm like, I'm going to drop it. I'm going to drop it. And I
Right.
remember my mom saying, come home. But I had to admit, I'm not okay. Like you said, I'm not okay with this. I ain't okay with this process.
Right. Right.
But there's nothing you can do because God put you in it. So you can't fight God. You're just going to have to endure. And enduring doesn't mean that you're going to do everything right. I know we look to some of the leaders that we have in the faith today, like they got strong stances on stuff. And they come at you and saying you ain't this, you ain't that, you ain't this. Let's just be clear. Like the hardest thing that I've had to make peace with was my humanity in this
Mm.
process.
Mm-hmm.
And in making peace with my humanity, you're going to literally have to make peace with the fact that you don't got it. And you're going to fall apart. But this is your humanism. When you are weak, he is strong. That's what the Bible says. But if you ain't never weak, he never has to be strong.
Right. Right.
Because
Or
you
if you're
got it.
never vulnerable, or if you never admit the truth, you're not okay. This is not a fun process
Why you don't
at
think?
all.
Why
And
you
what do
don't
we
think?
talk about? The old saints used to talk about I'm being pruned. Pruning is not a good process. Being stripped away of certain things, your comfortability, what you knew, what you've always known, that is not a fun process. And I wish we would stop hyper spiritualizing or over spiritualizing this thing like this journey is fantastic and it's great and it doesn't come with any problems. Because who told you that lie?
This is what I'm gonna
This
say.
is hard.
When people say following God was the best decision I ever made, sometimes it's not gonna feel like that.
No.
And if this is the best decision, I'm scared to figure out what the other decision was.
Right.
I'm gonna say on this decision because I'm scared to figure out what that decision will be.
Right.
You know what
Right.
I'm saying? But we cannot afford to hyper spiritualize and spiritual bypass and just really sometimes just outright lie to people because it is the truth. It is your testimony, right? I showed y'all my test. I don't have the money yet. Like I just had the test, but I showed y'all the test. I'm just saying.
I don't have the money. Right. And figuratively and literally, right? The money.
I got the test. I showed y'all the test. I don't got the money, right? So when I get the money, you gonna understand because you didn't see the test. But I had to let people. First of all, I had to admit to myself, like, yo, you struggling, girl, real bad. You struggling real bad. But I also had to admit to myself, like, you're gonna have to let people see this. Because so many believers have sanitized their testimonies, have sanitized, for profit, following God, have lied. We've marketed something that's just not true.
Right. Right.
And it is when other people get into the hardship of the transition, the hardship of following Christ, that they're like, oh no, this ain't working for me. No, this part of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
This the middle
Mm-hmm.
part.
Right. This is the I call it the 3/4 of the way. Like you almost at the end, but you're not there yet, and it feels like you about to just collapse at any given moment. That's this part.
I'm
And
gonna
what's
yeah.
interesting to me is that so many people will share their story, their testimony, but it's always the glitz and glamour version. It's never when you're going through the journey. That's what people really want to know. Okay, I'm not by myself how I'm feeling. I'm not by myself in how I'm processing. I'm not by myself because I'm sitting over here in this corner because old girl's sitting over here in the corner too, rocking and crying as well. Like it's that part that makes us feel like we are not alone. It's that part that makes us feel like, okay, I see what they're doing. And if they're gonna make it, I know that I can make it. And continuing to encourage ourselves that we're gonna make it. It's cool. The testimony part is great. Like, yeah, you overcame, but what did you have to go through? Because when they, as you say, sanitize their stories, it's never like I was literally crying, spitting, and farting, or sitting in the corner rocking or wailing on the phone to my mom in deep agony and pain. We don't get that version. We just get like I had a really hard time and it was rough, and then now I'm here. We need the journey.
You get the started from the bottom. Now we're here. That's not gonna help you.
Nah.
That's not gonna help you. And I think for me, I never wanted, and I still don't want people to have to ask me, how did you get here? I always wanted to be honest enough and transparent enough to show this is how I'm getting here. And then if you're new to the journey, you can look back and see how I've cataloged these things and how, I've moved in and out to these things. And, it has not been easy. It has not been, vulnerability is never easy, but following God is also not easy as well. And if we are believers and we say, it's not about you, it's about someone else, you're going to have to be honest enough to tell people the hard parts, the parts you don't want to rehearse, the parts you don't want to admit, the TMI moments that but you got to let people know. Because I know sometimes I remember before me and one of my brothers got close, he used to dislike me. And he thought I was this goody two shoes, whatever. Um, and it wasn't until I started to open up and tell him the truth, he was like, you saw
Right.
this, but you didn't know what else was happening here, here, and here. And so when I started to be honest and say, no, actually, that's what you remembered. Let me tell you what you didn't see. And he gained a deeper respect for who I was, and our relationship got better because he wasn't looking at me as, oh, this goody two shoes pretty girl who everybody loves and got to get. No, you got to understand the sacrifices that I had to make as the oldest went unspoken, or they weren't unspoken, but they were between me and another person. You didn't have to know. But when you know, right? And so that gives you deeper appreciation. And so when I see certain people, like, I ain't telling you that, and I'm not telling you to out yourself. I'm telling you to be honest about the parts you need to be honest about. That's what I'm telling you to do. Because it is, what is it? We overcome by the blood of the Lamb and what? The word of our testimony.
Yeah. Right.
That's a 2-part process.
Right.
Blood of the Lamb is done. Your testimony is still being done. And you have to be okay to say, I cried today, but I still showed up and I did this thing. I remember, I remember you saying that to me. Like at some point, I showed up on camera on something. I was probably podcast. I don't know. You was like, I looked at your face and I knew you had been crying.
I did. I looked right. I was like, oh, she been crying today. Today was a
She
rough
been
day. Mm-hmm.
crying. And I
Mm-hmm.
already got little beady eyes, so
Not the beady
they
eyes.
little beady eyes. They little. So it don't take much for my eyes. They already be closed. They barely be open. And I started crying. They get a little smaller. And I mean, but I can't hide. And it's like, no, it was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And guys, because this thing is this thing called godly suffering that we don't like to talk about. It is that suffering that you obeying God, you obey him into the storm. Let us cross to the other side, and their storm breaks out, right? Same way when Peter was walking on water, he became aware of the
Right.
wind.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's always
Mm-hmm.
going to be this thing that comes to stop you, to scare you. But it's like the word is still the word. The word over your life is still the word over your life. You still have a destined end. What are you going to do to get there? Are you going to suffer through this thing, this godly suffering that you obeyed into? Or are you going to be like, nope, you know what? I'm good. Like other generations have done.
Right.
And leave that burden to another generation. You're going to suffer. You're going to struggle through this thing. And you got to be okay with going through your hard parts. And sometimes your hard parts come back to back.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, the hard seasons. You know, it's so funny because you used to say this a lot. Like, you gonna pay on the front end or you gonna pay on the back end.
But you're
Either
going
way,
to
you're
pay.
gonna have to suffer,
You're going
regardless
to
of
pay.
whatever road you choose to travel down.
What
A
price you want to
payment will
pay?
need. Right.
Payment, please.
And I don't want to pay no interest.
I don't want to pay no interest.
That part.
And I think that's what keeps me on the, and I ain't even going to say narrow because my path been not as narrow as it needs to be.
These paths been
Right.
all like that.
Baby, what? But that's what keeps me on the path.
Right.
That's what keeps me sober. Like in when the pain is blinding.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a season you can walk through when, and that was my 2021. The pain was so blinding.
Mm-hmm.
I used to just beg God, please just allow me to stay on this earth. And y'all can read the line, read between the lines of what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Help me to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Because the pain was so blinding.
Mm-hmm.
I never want to experience that again.
Mm-hmm. See, I was on the flip side. So you were praying, please give me the strength to stay on this earth. Mine was like, you ready for me to come home? Because I'm ready to go. Okay.
Wow.
Like,
yeah.
And that was my 2002, 2005, 2006, 7, 8. Like, this was a journey. This was not something that was overnight. You often talk about multiple years of trauma, of hurt, of pain, of going through. Yeah. This was not a season of, okay, you dealt with this, now you get to go to the next one. Nope, it was another. And another. And another one.
Another one.
Right.
Yeah. And you still like, what is this about?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Right,
Please?
right. Because now several years. So one of the instance I'm talking about is when I lost my son. Another one was 3 years after that, I lost my mother. And then another 3 years after that is my husband, who decided to leave. And so it was things back to back to back. And I hadn't gotten over any of the first death, and then to keep going through these grieving process. And so at this big age, as you say, and however many years later, my mom would have been gone for, I think, almost 20 years.
Wow.
19 years, I think, was this year. My son would have been 22, 23.
Wow.
Right. And I still have no answer as to why I had to go through all of that.
Wow. And sometimes you won't.
And I won't. And I got to be okay with that. That I'll figure it out when I get to heaven. But right now, I got a job to do and I got to keep pushing forward.
And it reminds me of that Zora Neale Hurston quote: "There are years that question, and there are years that answer."
Yeah. Yeah.
And you may not get an answer on this side.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still willing to move forward?
Mm-hmm.
Or are
Mm-hmm.
you going to stop? And I know you got to get the strength from somewhere, but it's going to have to be God's strength
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to keep going, to stay in this process, to keep showing up. Like sometimes I just be like, I need your strength today.
That's it. Sometimes my prayers are help. Holy Spirit,
Help.
help.
And
That's
full
it.
stop. That's a prayer.
That's it. Period. At the
Help.
end. Like I have nothing else. Just help. Please. That's all I got.
And what parent can hear their child crying for help and not show up?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was a kid, I got my arm stuck in a chair. It was a wooden chair, very slender back. And I stuck my little arm in there. I don't know what I was doing. I was doing something. I stuck my arm in there. It was stuck. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
crying. My mama broke the chair.
Mm-hmm.
Wooden chair. Broke the
Mm-hmm.
chair because I couldn't get my arm out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you feel that adrenaline, that strength from someone. You got to
Right.
save
Right.
your child.
Right.
You can't see them suffering. So the same, if this is true for your earthly parent, why would God sit by and let you cry for help? Now, it may not be the help you want,
Right.
but he'll help you get through the day, through the hour,
Mm-hmm.
through the moment. He
Mm-hmm.
will comfort you, but he may not take you off the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, when I said help, I want off the season.
Right. Right.
I want to get out, not I want some soothing. He's like, come on, come lay down. You're still
Mm-hmm.
going through. You're not getting
Mm-hmm.
out.
Right.
You still got to process this. And, you know, I just really, for this episode, wanted people to know that hardship is part of any journey, whether you're a believer or not. But, you know, we have it a little bit tougher for sure, but we also have a lot of advantages that people in the world don't have. And when we understand fully that this thing is cyclical, that there will be good times, there will be bad times, you know, but you have to carry each with stride. You have to go through each with a stride. And you may not be able to strive,
Right.
STRIVE, but you may be able to stride, STRIDE, and stride with God. And, you know, I just wanted to just give voice to the fact or acknowledge the fact that, you know, there will be hard seasons as you transition. And storms may break out on the way to obey God, but your mandate is still to obey because he told you to obey before you encountered that hardship. He told you what to do before the test came up. You got to go back to what he said to do, and you got to keep doing it, even if it feels like it's insignificant. Trust me, I know. Ask me how I know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I saw it with my own eyes. Uh-huh. Yeah.
As we all know, but y'all,
Mm-hmm.
I think we should end there. I think we should end at this moment. In this episode, I just really felt it was necessary for us to have a very transparent and honest conversation about the backside of the desert, so to speak. The ugly parts, the parts where, you know, the children of Israel twerking with the golden calf. You know what I'm saying? Because they trying to get out their season.
Twerking. Oh no.
And they have that twerk. I thought we should talk about it because there are those ghetto moments in all of our journey where we like,
Right.
that's the ghetto part. Do we have to say that part on camera?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's honest. It's honest, it's true. And, you know, I want you to know that you're not alone. We all have hard seasons. We all experience hardship when we're following God. If it was easy, everyone would do it. But, you know, God has trusted you with your version of hard. Following God is hard, but saying the same is hard too. You get to choose your heart.
Choose your heart. Yep.
And I want you to choose the heart that will give you forward progression as opposed to the heart that's going to keep you there in the same place you don't want to be. You're never going to be able to be comfortable and you will waste your life. You only get one life. I don't know if they say YOLO anymore, but you do.
You only get one life.
You get one. You get one
Do
chance.
not miss your chance. Right.
Cue Eminem 8 Mile.
Right.
You only get one shot. Do not miss a chance to go. This opportunity comes once in a life better. You
Once
better.
in a lifetime, right?
But y'all, let me get off this podcast. Y'all, thank you so much for rocking with us again. I want you to go ahead and join my mailing list at briannawhiteside.com. Grab the transition toolkit. Grab the transition toolkit. Grab the transition toolkit that is equipped with 2 ebooks, and also be sure to follow me on social, more specifically Instagram at the Book of Brianna. Nikki, what you got?
First of all, could I just say we need you to transition a little bit more onto the TikToks before they, get rid of it if that's the path they're going down. But anyway, if you guys are ready to walk this entrepreneurial journey out, I'm your girl. Go ahead and book your one-on-one call. You can find my information in the description or show notes of this podcast, but you can find me at nikkilegros.com. And my social media handles for now are Renewed Love, but they will also be down in the description as well, so that you can just click it and go to the page instead of trying to search and find it.
And we'll have all this information in the show notes, y'all. Be sure to join us, subscribe to the podcast, and we'll see you soon in another installment of the Book of Brianna, a podcast. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.